in Grey, one of the greatest rock bands to ever come out of Japan. Today, they're a machine that offers unique composition within the metal genre. Even though they're considered metal, you can find all sorts of genres within their music library. DIR Grey is a band that has gone through some iterations, and has lasted almost 2 decades right now. At the helm of this band is a talented guitar player named Kaoru. Today on Musician Spotlight, we'll be talking about someone who isn't talked about all that much, DIR Grey's leader, Kaoru. Kaoru was born on February 17, 1974 in the Hyogo Prefecture. Not much is known about his childhood, but during his teen years he was inspired by the early Visual Kei movement, and looked up to ex-Japan's guitar player, Hide. His musical career started in the early 1990s, where he joined his first band, DIR, while he was still in high school. This band would cover songs from ex-Japan, Bowie, and Zekel. This band would last all until they graduated from high school, and then they would disband and go their separate ways. Kaoru's second band was called Charm, and it is speculated that they formed in 1994. He played with this band for a while until its disbandment in 1996. Apparently, while in Charm, Kaoru met Dai, another DIR Grey guitar player. Around that same time, another band called Lasades was looking for a new guitar player after their guitar player Shio left. Within the band Lasades, Kaoru would meet other future members of DIR Grey, Kyo and Shinya. Some speculate that Dai was the one who recruited Kaoru into Lasades. On bass, there was a bass player named Kasaki who would go on to play for Phantomastagora. Kasaki was the leader of Lasades, and there was a dispute between Kaoru and Kasaki. Kasaki didn't want to debut the band while Kaoru did. This dispute led to Kasaki parting ways with the band and thus ending Lasades. After parting ways with Kasaki, the remaining members recruited Toshiya and formed a new band that would go on to be DIR Grey. And that's how the story goes. I say story because some of the details kind of change from time to time about the early days of DIR Grey. But regardless of their past, you can't take away what they are now. And now when it comes to Kaoru, I don't think of the word guitarist, I think of the word composer. And when it comes to Japanese composers in rock and roll, he has to be somewhere towards the top. Though DIR Grey doesn't cite individual composers anymore, many sources still claim Kaoru to be the main composer. In an interview, he stated that he usually writes the skeleton of the song, while the other members pitch in their ideas with their instruments. From what I've studied, it's a composition style that is very similar to Hide's and to an extent Taji, which is why their vocalist, Kyo, actually writes his own lyrics. Back when DIR Grey did cite individual composers, no other member wrote more than Kaoru, and he is responsible for many songs that would shape the industry of Visual Kei. Though most of DIR Grey's music is on the darker side, Kaoru shows a different side with the song Jessica. And of course, who could forget the bipolar song of his called Child Prey? That song is personally my alarm clock. Sometime after Vulgar, they seem to change their composition style of writing, and it's more collaborative now. But with the new style of composing, Kaoru and DIR Grey have written some amazing songs. Though these days most of them are centered around the vocals, they're still quite complex in their nature, and they seem to have been written very specifically. I said that I think of Kaoru more of a composer than a guitar player, that doesn't mean he's not a good guitar player. In fact, his versatility in composing transfers to his guitar skills, seeing as though he can play in many styles and will often intentionally mix them up in many of Dir and Grey's songs. Unlike most guitar players, Kaoru seems to be more introverted and therefore won't schedule a 2-hour shredding session in a live concert. He seems to put the song first instead of putting himself first, and for that I respect him a lot more than I do most guitar players. Even though he's listed as a rhythm guitarist currently, he is still very capable of performing lead as well. I mean, remember, he was in an ex-Japan cover band, and Dir and Grey has been known to randomly cover an ex-Japan song live here and there. Today, Kaoru still plays with and runs Dir and Grey, and they seem to be continuing on strong. He has mentioned that he would like to make a solo album one day, and if that ever happens, I'd be very interested in hearing it. He also has a book out called Dokujin, which seems to be autobiographical, and there may be plans to release a sequel to that book. For those of you who are into guitar and music equipment, Wikipedia has a whole list on all of his equipment and even tells you some that he used for specific songs. It's interesting to look at, especially if you're interested in studying guitar sound. And I will tell you that studying a musician who puts the song first rather than himself is something that every musician should do. You'll learn a whole lot, especially if you're a guitar player. Well, I hope you enjoyed this little spotlight on Kaoru, probably my favorite member of Dir and Grey. Even though he and I write entirely different sounds, he's definitely someone I try to emulate when it comes to work ethic. Being a leader of a band is quite the task, especially with what goes on behind the scenes, and it's truly inspirational to see the work that he has done. I apologize if some of the information in this video wasn't super accurate. Some of the info I got was from vk.gy, I'll put it in the video and in the description. Much of it cited the book itself, the book that he wrote, which is in Japanese. And there isn't too much published information in English on Kaoru, and he's not one to share too much about himself personally. It made this video a bit challenging to make, so if you like this video, consider subscribing and giving it a share. This is Josh the Music Man, signing off.